The king of curses, the strongest sorcerer in history, the biggest Yuji hater, Ryomen Sukuna has entered the stage. See, I have this game I'm working on called Codex Blaze, and in short, it's a hack and slash game inspired by many of my favorite animes and some comics here and there. But yeah, with animes, as you could have guessed, that includes Gege Akutami's Jujutsu Kaisen. Anyway, with that being the case, as a creative individual, I'd really like to get to the point where I can make my own worlds with unique characters and backstories and powers and all of that fun stuff. But what I've realized as a game designer is that adding those into the context of a game can be quite the challenge. So I found that it's been really good practice for me to try imitate and recreate these already established characters and see how their abilities, their designs and their combat mechanics would work in an actual game. I guess I should have said like power mechanics instead of combat mechanics, but you get what I'm talking about. Plus, it doesn't hurt that making content of them will probably do a lot better than my regular videos do. So in the past I've done Gojo and I've done Yuji, especially with the Black Flash, but those were only partially done. This time I would like to seriously expand on it a lot more and make it as if I was releasing the character. What's really cool is now that my AI can use the same weapons and abilities as the player can. That means not only can we have Sukuna as a playable character, but we can also have him as a boss, which would be, I'm already terrified by the domain expansion, like that's gonna be insane. Plus, since I still have most of the work from the Gojo one we've done, I think it would also be really interesting if we could have a Gojo AI and a Sukuna AI face off, so we can finally answer, but not really, who is better, the strongest sorcerer of history or the strongest sorcerer of today? So yeah, basically that's my end game here. Right, so to get that done, we have to plan out how Sukuna is going to work as a playable character. So what's going to be his abilities and what's going to be his moveset. So let's do a quick breakdown of what we got to get done. So in my game right now, combat is broken down into two parts, which is your character and their abilities and a weapon that you can equip. When it comes to characters, each character has a tactical art, which is something that doesn't directly do damage, but is more useful as like a buff or support, activating a mechanic or like a mobility option. So I'm thinking for Sukuna, it kind of makes sense to do like a reverse curse technique, which is just like healing for him, right? Then we have the strike art, and this is something closer to a single target ability. So I'm thinking for Sukunas, we could use maybe cleave or world cut and dismantle. But I wouldn't say too much about the last one for those who aren't caught up with the manga. So characters are also going to have a burst art, which is really just inspired by Genshin, and it's basically just going to be a big area of effect ability. But I think this could be something like Sukuna's fire arrow black box move. Then we have the overflow art, which is kind of like the character's ultimate. So when a character has enough blaze energy, they reach overflow mode, which basically buffs all three major stats. And yeah, in this overflow mode, they usually take on a different form or have a different moveset with a different weapon. But I'm thinking in this case, they can just release a really powerful ability, but they basically kind of work like Ninja Storm Awakenings. Sukuna having his overflow mode be the domain expansion just makes perfect sense. The one feature that I've been trying to implement recently is a character gauge mechanic, which is something that's tied with the character's personality or combat style. So for instance, my character is all about like lightning quick attacks and building up and then releasing the energy in a lightning strike or something like that. So my character has a potential energy gauge. Basically it's like stored energy when it dashes, and he can use it in different attacks. For this one, I'm actually really not sure what to do because Sukuna is kind of stoic. The only time you see him show any kind of emotion is when he's hyped up in a fight. So maybe like a malevolence meter or a enchanted meter. That one is definitely going to be a bit of a challenge for me to come up with, but hey, that's the fun of doing this. So now we have the weapon moveset. The first thing we need is probably like a simple punch kick combo, and we could use like cleave or a slash attack at the end. I've just recently made this thing called a two-stage charge attack, which was basically inspired by some of the attacks in One Piece Pirate Warriors, which I've been playing recently. The idea is you can hold down and do an attack, but if you hold down long enough, it will do a stronger version of that attack. The downside is you can be interrupted while you're charging to the stronger version. So it's like you have to be a kind of strategic about which ones you want to do. Now that we have that all planned out, It's time to make like Gordon Ramsay and just start cooking. So my first step to this was finding a Sukuna model online, and I would have loved to model it myself, but trust me, it would have turned out looking more like the Lord of Bad Words rather than the King of Curses. But yeah, once we had the mesh in, it was time to rig it. And rigging is basically like creating the skeleton that's going to move the mesh about for animations. So with my lack of experience and for the fact that I'm doing this in a game engine, using a tool like Game Rig Tools was definitely a good idea. Yeah, so I struggled with a capital S trying to get the rigging done right. But I figured I'd take some time out and make like a Minecraft YouTuber and just off screen it so I fully understand what I'm doing. So back in the engine, I needed to create two things: a character profile that was going to hold all the information on Sukuna, and an item weapon for cleaving this mantle, making it an equipable weapon for any character. Then I started working on getting the combo done with the slashes, and after that working on the charge attacks. What if for the first one, Sukuna does like this dash forward, basically to like close the distance with any attack. In the last video, I went into a lot of depth about how I make these weapons, and you can watch that for some more information if you're more on the nerdy side of things. And yeah, this is basically where we got to with the moveset. This one is good enough. It's just so... This one is just clean. So after pulling a Minecraft YouTuber, I managed to get Sukuna into the game and fix the mesh off screen. I was definitely happy with how it turned out, and with the main combo done, it's time to move on to doing Sukuna's arts. So the first one I decided to do, probably because it was the easiest, was to tackle his tactical art. And this was just going to be his reverse curse technique, which is just healing over time. And yeah, that's pretty simple to do. Alright, we've done enough damage, so we can just do this.
And get our health back. But I don't really like the aura. Like, the guy we're creating, he's like a badass. He's like a monster. So for him to have like this really nice glowing green aura, it just seems too peaceful, you know?
Then I decided it was time for the main event, the domain expansion, or at least a prototype version of it. Oh god, it's laggy. Oh man, it's so laggy. There we go, that is so much better. We took the slashes from the other charge attacks and we just made them bigger and added way more slashes. For now, just doing a cool animation and making sure that the ability is kind of working the way it's supposed to, and having a few effects was good enough to get the ball moving. Yeah, this is the goal for today, is so we can tick that in time. And this should be pretty easy. I basically have an ability that is functionally the same. So my favorite to work on was definitely the flame arrow. The logic of it was pretty easy to set up because we have similar abilities, but the effects took a bit more work, but I'm happy with it for now. Oh. Oh my god, this guy domain expansions me one more time, man. It's actually nuts. But doing something as complex as that might require me to overhaul a lot. I basically think that that's about everything that I needed to get done today. You can see the list is literally just this. So while doing this, the gods of Epic Games decided to once again shine the light upon us, and they started another sale. I found this animation pack which instantly stuck out to me because of how many attacks looked like they were made directly for Sukuna. And also this one is pretty cool. I've been looking for an animation like this, so I went ahead and bought it and replaced some of the animations, and yeah, I think it was worth it. If you think so too, leave a like and subscribe. It helps me realize that I'm not completely wasting my time and money here on a goofy little hobby. Now we had to fix up that domain expansion because as of now it was looking more like Evil Slices rather than Malevolent Shrine. So once again I had to find a model online because there's no way in hell I'm making that shit myself, and then I imported it into the engine. Then I used a black hemisphere as the domain backdrop and used a timeline to kind of expand it to be like stupid big. And that's how we got the domain effect. So why I do these challenges again is mostly for growth and learning new things, and one of the things that I've been putting off learning is animation. I knew for a project like this and a character like Sukuna, I just had to get the domain expansion hand signs right, or otherwise it just wouldn't slap as much. Surprisingly, it actually didn't take too long to make, and it ended up being okay on my character, but on the Sukuna mesh, not so much. I originally thought it was because of the difference in arm length, but a few days later I realized it's actually because of a difference in finger straightness, or the correlation of the finger. Let me explain. Right, so basically the way my model is set up is like this. The fingers are kind of modeled in a way, it's like this. You can see it's very curled, but the Sukuna model is pretty straight, right? And so because of the way retargeting works, if my character does this, Sukuna's model would do this. Is this making any sense at all? My character, or when my character skeleton does this, I think that's how it's done. The Sukuna one is basically doing this, and this just isn't going to work out. So I ended up curling the fingers a little bit, and that basically ended up solving the problem. I don't know why it took me too long to realize, but we move. So things were looking good for now, but our work here was still not done. There were definitely still a few problem areas, and I thought it was time for me to do another horrible paint brainstorm session. Basically just a few more things that we need to do, I'd say. And I've gone ahead and done a quick demonstration of what we need to do. So the first thing is that you see this passive ability, like I have no idea what to do with Sukuna's passive, right? Because I've just thought about it all week, or I guess all 2 weeks, and I've had no clue. There's also tactical ability, which works pretty well right now, but it just looks a bit, I just want to make it look evil. That's the lightning, not an S. And then I'm thinking maybe it should do some type of stun wave, right? And that way it still has some more like tactical use rather than just straight up healing the character. And you know, I just think it'll be more fire this way. Next is, let me zoom. Next is flame arrow thing, right? One, we're using like a sweeping projectile, which constantly moves through the enemies, but we actually want to do a regular projectile that's going to hit. This is it hitting, right? And then it's going to like explode and do something. So I want to kind of shorten the distance and then come up with some kind of final explosion. And with that, basically we should have everything done for our glorious malevolent king.
A few moments later.
So it's actually been quite a while since I last worked on the Sukuna project. It's been like a month. You might see that some things have changed because I didn't stop working on the game. I just continued, just didn't really work on the Sukuna side of things. Don't worry about those, pretend you didn't see anything. So we have this passive ability called Intimidation, and yeah, I did kind of take it from Curse Clash, but they weren't really doing anything good with it anyway, so I figured I might as well. And we did add this little description thing and a little subtle like line here. I think it's pretty cool. It has opportunities to drop a bit of lore, but the idea is, if you don't really feel like reading all of that, is as you fight, you build up intimidation in the intimidation meter. So you see it kind of jumps up, and you get to different levels of intimidation. When you get to a certain level and you press an R, it does this, which kind of good for crowd control if you just want enemies to like not be around you. Gives it a lot of utility, I think. So when you get to level 2, you gain a small attack bonus, which I'm just realizing now I should have given a visual cue for. But yeah, you can see that my attack is higher and it's slowly decreasing back to 90 something. Then when you get to level 3 and you use an art, it does all the other effects, but it also gives you some more blaze energy, which is useful for getting to the domain expansion faster. Speaking of not using the character well, if we quickly just build up some meter, if we get knocked down, we do lose some of the intimidation, which is, you know, makes sense. He's quite literally losing aura. I think that's a cool mechanic, and I think that's a good way to balance out a passive ability, right? So we're gonna head to our demo map to test some actual gameplay. So I think when I build up enough meter, you see how they all just go flying back? I don't know, I think that's really useful for just grouping them up so I can hit them with the you're strong, stand proud. I did that the other way around, isn't it? Oh, sorry. Who do you think you are? Alright, so this area is very work in progress, so ignore like the block out settings, but just imagine there was stuff here. Oh shit, I can never time the teleportation right. Yeah, so we basically cannot die as Sukuna, because at the very least we can always just use the reverse curse technique. So I think the cool thing about doing this challenge is like how much I've learned and how it's pushed me to do things that I would have normally avoided. One is like doing the character passive abilities. At least I know now to work backwards and come up with the character's passive ability first and then work with the arts. Oh shit, we're getting rocked here. But also like animating this for the domain expansion made me realize that animating was actually just, not that it wasn't that hard, but like I shouldn't have been so scared of animating, because it was actually like manageable. Okay, that was a bit late for that. So the good thing is the AI is coded pretty badly that it doesn't hit me enough to actually pop a domain on me, which means I'm pretty safe, but that's also a bad thing because it makes it too easy. And because the AI is too easy, it's also like crap. I might have spoke too soon. It's pretty difficult for him to build up enough intimidation. Oh, we are getting cooked. We're getting cooked. Oh my god, chillax, chill. Oh fuck. Okay, he built up to intimidation level, I think. You can always just knock him down with these. Yeah, if you don't dodge, that one is pretty much over. That one is dangerous. How did I miss? How did I miss? That's embarrassing. Okay, he's kind of just doing nothing. I don't know if his AI is broken. How do I keep missing that? I need a crosshair or whatever. You like that, Sukuna? That's called a parry. You're not that. Oh god, he's that tough. I was about to say you're not that tough. Why do I keep missing this? This is so bad. Okay. I think it's because this one actually is near the hand, and this one is kind of, you have to adjust your aim. Let's go ultimate mode. Finished. Nice. In this mode we can kind of just spam this, and he has no hope to like. Oh crap. Oh, we're getting cooked. We are about to get cooked. We're about to get cooked. We're cooked. We're cooked. It took roughly 2 weeks for me to implement all of that, and maybe like another week to iron things out and perfect it. But yeah, that's where we got up to, and I'm really happy with how well I've done in certain aspects on this. Like, I think the domain expansion is cool, the reverse curse technique works, and the passive ability was pretty good. The only thing is probably the strike art that we have wasn't really like that clean, but it just wasn't that cool compared to everything else. And doing that intro sequence, it's been something that I've wanted to do for a long time, learn how to do those cool intro sequences, but for some reason I've stayed away from one, animating, and two, using sequencer, because I felt really comfortable doing it just because of doing that domain expansion. Animation just helped me like realize that animation is actually not that deep. Like, why have I been scared to do it? And since then I've actually done like 5 animations in other parts of my games for other characters too. Yeah, I'm pretty excited to do Gojo next, and then get them to fight each other. If that sounds interesting to you, make sure you leave a like and subscribe, and yeah, hopefully I can get that one out as soon as possible. Anyway, thank you for tuning in, and I will catch you later.